So let's move on to designing a knowledge management prototype for WPI's innovation and entrepreneurship programs.
All right. Hi, I'm Leah Butin.
I'm Rhianna Shinnerbrook.
I'm Matthew Bisson.
And I'm Ellen Abayo.
And our project was to design a knowledge management prototype for WPI's innovation on entrepreneurship programs. So this is the agenda for our presentation. We are first going to go over the relevant background information, then present our project methodology, show our results and our deliverable, as well as go over our conclusions and recommendations. The innovation and entrepreneurship programs and resources at WPI are currently dispersed throughout the WPI webpage with no clear organization. For prospective students, current students, and faculty, it is difficult to learn more about any of these programs available. So the goal of this project set out by WPI Innovation and Entrepreneurship staff was to develop a knowledge management prototype that viewers could easily navigate to find INE programs that WPI offers.
For our background, we researched the following key terms because they are connected to WPI INE. The WPI INE offers many resources and strives to create successful entrepreneurs. The dictionary definition of an entrepreneur is the activity of setting up business or businesses and taking financial risk in hopes of profit. WPI INE offers multiple programs that help students create, develop, and finalize their ideas for a startup company. A startup company is a short company that is designed to research for repeatable and expandable business models. Many of the INE programs contain elements similar to an accelerator and an incubator. An accelerator is a form of entrepreneur support organization that primarily focuses on assisting and developing individual startups. An incubator provides a startup company with support and resources that the company may need in order to succeed in the long run. One of the definitions between an incubator and an accelerator is a program duration. An accelerator is about 3 months and an incubator lasts about 1 to 5 years. To complete the goal of our project, our methodology consisted of the following phases. Phase 1 was to explore where we talked to our sponsors about their expectations and got more information about the WPI INE programs. Phase 2 was to create a design sprint, and phase 3 was testing, where we tested our prototype through interviews and surveys.
So as Ellen just mentioned, the first phase of our methodology was explore. The explore phase was created so we could obtain the information we would need in order to create a prototype for our sponsors and users that would best fit the needs of both of these demographics. The explore phase consisted of 2 steps. The first step was to determine what key WPI INE stakeholders were looking for in a prototype, while the second was to determine what web pages and information existed for the INE programs prior to the completion of our prototype. In order to complete the first step, we interviewed the stakeholders and asked them questions based around what information they were looking for in a prototype, and if they had any specific way they wanted it organized. The second step was completed through analyzing documents and presentations that were provided to us by our sponsors, as well as analyzing the information that was already published on the WPI website.
The next stage of our methodology was create. In our previous project, we researched and decided to use a design sprint. A design sprint typically involves 5 steps over the course of 5 days. These steps are understand, diverge, converge, prototype, and test. For our project, we decided to adapt this design sprint for our project. So we used 4 of these steps over the course of 2 weeks. The first step was understand. In this step, a team collaboratively researches the problem and many possible solutions. All of these potential solutions are discussed. From this discussion, several possible prototype avenues are selected. In the diverge stage, each member of the team selects one possible prototype idea. For each idea, a rough draft or mock-up is created. The mock-up can be a drawing, write-up, or anything that is able to communicate the prototype vision. In the next step, converge, all of these possible prototypes are discussed. From the mock-ups, advantages and disadvantages are all discussed, and all of the possible solutions are ranked, and one is selected. This one idea is then moved on to the next stage of the methodology, prototype. In the prototype stage, the select idea is fully explored and a comprehensive prototype is developed. The final phase of a traditional design sprint is test. Rihanna will go over now how we adapted it to suit our methodology.
So our final phase of the methodology was the testing phase, as Matthew just mentioned, where we completed the testing of our prototype in 2 steps. The first step was through interviews with our advisors and our sponsors. Both sets of these interviews were loosely formatted in order to allow the interviewees to guide themselves through our prototype and form their own opinions on the quality of the prototype. The second step was a survey that was sent out to WPI students. The survey was formatted in order to test the ease of use of our prototype. As you can see here, this is an example of one question from our survey. First, we would ask the user a question that would guide them to look on the website and find the answer. Second, we asked them to rate on a Likert scale from 1 to 7 how easy the information was to find. Finally, we asked them an open-ended question for any feedback they might have on how to improve that section of the prototype. We asked questions similar to this one for 3 different aspects of the prototype.
As Matt mentioned before, we completed a design sprint for our prototype. To complete the understanding step, we had to identify and organize all the information we were to include in our prototype. To do this, we created a document of all the information from our explore phase. The information consisted of the different programs, resources, and workspaces in I&E at WPI. After completing the understanding step, we went to the diverging step. We brainstormed different kinds of prototypes that we could make. We ended up coming up with an AI chatbot, a Tableau page, an infographic, and a website using the platform Wix. After discussing these options, we decided on making a website because it would include the most information in the most organized way. Each of us then came up with different ways to design and organize the website. Once everybody was finished, we came together and all presented our designs. After that, we ranked all the different design elements on a Google Doc and each voted by commenting on what we liked best. Before moving to the prototyping stage, the Hub was introduced to us during our weekly meeting with our advisors. The Hub is an IT website initiative that is very new and not a lot of people know about, but IT hopes to make the Hub all things WPI. Ultimately, we decided on making our webpage on the Hub instead of Wix. Before actually prototyping, we had to meet with the IT desk supervisor to learn all of the Hub's conventions and get all the permissions to make a Hub page. Once we had an understanding of the Hub, we were able to prototype our page. To prototype, we did this by splitting up the information equally among the 4 of us, so all of us had different tasks to complete.
As Leah just mentioned, not many people know about the Hub, but we chose it because it's already established in the WPI platform and it's easy to access and edit as you can log in using your current WPI ID and password. The Hub is not advanced and is still being worked on, but we focused on the future of the website. Its content would be much easier to hand off to staff and future IQP teams. The way the Hub is set up, it has a main page, which is also known as a service page. On the service page, there are components which bring you to a new page. We created 5 components, which I'll talk later more about in the presentation. Within the service and component page are articles. Articles include information on anything, whether it's directions on how to use Canvas or information on remote learning. We created 13 articles which explain what each program was and how to apply. Additionally, all pages are allowed to have actions, which are links to anything internal or external. Metadata, including audience and tags, serve as keywords when someone is searching within the Hub.
As Brianna mentioned earlier, we had a few main feedback rounds to discuss our prototype. The first feedback round was with our advisors. We had a loosely organized interview in which they were allowed to freely navigate the site and provide any feedback they thought was relevant. One of the main points they had was to improve on the organization of the website. On the bottom of your screen, you can see a before and after of the headings of our content. By making them bolder and changing the colors, we were able to make it more organized to allow for students to find information faster and more efficiently. Above it, you can see that we made actions to allow students to find the different components from the service page. This also had the effect of improving our organization. The next round of feedback was with our sponsors. Similar to the advisors, we had a loosely formatted interview, and they were allowed to freely navigate the website so that they could get a feel for it themselves and provide any feedback. Again, most of their feedback revolved around organization. From their suggestions, we immediately formatted the About section of our content to have more bolded words so that students could find them quicker and faster. And we also reformatted the titles of our components to more accurately reflect the components and articles within them. A lot of feedback from both the advisors and sponsors had to do with the aesthetic design of the website. Some of it was outside of our technical ability in the immediate time frame, so we incorporated those into the recommendations portion of our report. The next round of feedback came from the students. As Rihanna mentioned earlier, we had an open response section for feedback. Two of the suggestions we immediately implemented on the website were to edit a main graphic that we had that laid out all of our information and organization of our website. Another was to quickly fix any typos we had for spelling and grammar on the website. Finally, similar to feedback from advisors and sponsors, we had a lot of suggestions for the aesthetic design and organization of the website. Again, some of this was outside of our technical ability, but we were happy to include it in the recommendations portion so that the IT desk and I&E department at WPI can incorporate them going into the future. Finally, also from the student feedback, we gathered data on a Likert scale of how students felt the website was to use. Our scale went from 1 at extremely easy to 7 for extremely difficult. The first question was how easy was it to find the 4 I&E categories? These categories corresponded to the components on the website. Students rated it as a 2.8 between slightly easy and moderately easy. The next question was how easy was it to place each program or resource in the proper category? For this question, students were asked to sort the article titles into the component bins on the survey to indicate that they were able to find where each article belonged. They rated this as a 4 at neither easy nor difficult. Finally, the last question was how easy was it to locate the resources and workspaces? These resources and workspaces correspond to things on the website and several articles. They rated it as a 1.9 between moderately and extremely easy. Finally, the average of these scores is a 2.9, which corresponds to slightly easy. This indicates plenty of room for improvement, but also shows that we were successful in creating a website that was easy to navigate and efficient to use.
So this is a screen recording of our website that we created under the hub. We named it Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and it was placed under the Teaching and Learning catalog. We created 5 service components, which were Imagine and Discover, Develop and Create, Finance and Finalize, Pre-collegiate programs, and Workspaces and Resources. For each component represents the different types of programs that the WPI I&E offers. For each program, we wrote an article explaining what the program is and how to apply. So imagine I'm an I&E student who's interested in being a part of one of these programs, but I'm not sure where to start. I'd read through the article and click on the Develop and Create programs. Second, I'd read this component and I'll get to figure out which program is best for me. In this situation, the Go Team program would be best because it focuses on women in innovation and entrepreneurship. It would help me develop my ideas. I would click on the article for GoTank and read more information. If I was also interested, I can click on the Apply to GoTank, which is in the action items, which will take me to the application page. On the application page, I can get more information. I can also learn about Winter Session, which is a program that is also offered in the Develop and Create.
So, to conclude, we created a resource that clearly and concisely presents the relevant information. Students found it easy to use and appropriate for the content. We created it on a new platform, the WPI Hub, which allows for easy publication and access to the prototype. For the prototype, we had 3 main rounds of feedback from advisors, sponsors, and students. Based on this feedback, we edited the resources and made plenty of changes. Any feedback that we were unable to immediately implement was discussed and distilled down to be included in the recommendation portion of our report.
Our final deliverable consists of recommendations we have made, one set for I&E at WPI and one set for IT. The first recommendation for I&E is to add a new article to the service focused around mentors and residents, and to populate it with videos and profiles of current mentors and residents. Our second recommendation is to add any new information to the hub as it appears, and thus to constantly update it. Finally, we recommended to I&E that they create an Instagram page that they could keep up to date with events that might be happening and what different students are doing within their programs. Recommendations for IT are focused around the aesthetics and customization of the hub. We recommend that IT allow for more advanced formatting and graphics, more customization within the hub, and incorporate tabs and a drop-down menu in order to assist with organization.
We just want to give a special thank you to our advisors, Professor Doran and Professor Stafford, our sponsor, Curtis Abel, Director of I&E, Donna Levin, the IT Desk Supervisor, Rachel Riley Schaefer, who helped us with everything in the hub. And then finally, our Namibian sponsors, Dr. Lamek Mawewa and Clarence Natesso, for all their help during ID 2050. Does anybody have any question? Also, there's a QR code to our website if you'd like to see it.
That's great. Thanks so much. So are there any questions? Well, I have one. So this is an example of, you had a, with Lamech and Clarence, you had a proposal that you developed during ID 2050 pre-departure that needed to be completely scrapped. It was not something that you could do remotely. You have to physically be on the ground in northern Namibia. Walk us through some of the steps and the thinking on how you made the transition and the selection into working on this project.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Right after we found out that we wouldn't be going to Namibia and that our project wasn't able to be worked, we had a sit-down meeting where we kind of talked about what our priorities were as far as what the project should look like. One of the initial things that we really talked about was we really wanted a sponsor so that we had a project that could have concrete goals, have a major impact on the people who were staying. From there, we talked about how it would be really neat to work with a startup or some kind of new entrepreneurial venture to assist them. And from there, the conversation kind of became, well, how can we efficiently work with something like that through all of the circumstances that we're going through right now with the pandemic? It became clear that the WPI INE staff have ongoing projects and programs, and that there was definitely a way that we could work with them to kind of have the project we were looking to have. And meetings with the INE staff, many emails, and we arrived at the idea that students are really having a hard time finding the appropriate resources to develop ventures and to get involved in INE. And so we went forward with the idea to create a resource that would connect them to those.
Follow up. So let's say you had any more time. What would be the next thing that you'd want to do on this project?
I know for me, and maybe the others can comment on what they think, I would love to kind of start moving this into distribution phase and execute phase of getting it out there and getting students to use it, and making sure that all of the information on the programs are updated. It's a good time to kind of update all the information to reflect the programs for the fall semester. Get it out there so that students could start using it to find programs they wanted to do. I think would definitely be the next step for me, anyway.
Okay.
I think in a perfect world, we would have, so like a lot of our recommendations for like IT, we could have given to them as like we went, but realistically, we couldn't start this or didn't end up starting this project till like 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the term. So ideally, we could have kind of worked with IT more to make the changes so we could update our website more, like in terms of the different media. In my opinion, that personally would have been really awesome. But as Matt said in the presentation, a lot of it was like our technical abilities.
Yeah, well, you've given them now a list of things that they can develop next. So,
hey team,
nice work.
Hey, I got one question for you. So, in terms of IT and the marketing website, how do you foresee the integration of the two?
You mean, how do you anticipate getting it out to students from kind of perspective?
Yeah, so how, what is the hub doing differently than what the marketing website is doing?
I see. The hub is really great at organizing and kind of pulling all of this information together into a centralized resource. Prior to our project, when we were exploring the programs that INE offers, they are kind of exceedingly spread out amongst that website with information in all different places. There's information on the main WPI.edu framework. There's information on the startup tree. There's information with the folks who are running these programs. And what the hub kind of does is it pulls it all together into one centralized resource. And while the hub might not necessarily contain comprehensive information on a single program, say Goat Tank, it can point you to the resources you need to fully understand the GoTank and how to apply to it. So it kind of acts as a central hub. Students go to it and then are immediately directed to the resources that they need to answer.
I also think before we started working on the hub, most of the information that was on there was like directions, like on like how-to stuff, like how to set up Echo Live in a classroom. Like it's a lot like IT service related stuff, but I think they're trying to transition like kind of like the how-tos and like the information like of everything around campus and the website.
Thank you. I'm just curious. Did you get any advice from marketing in any way in terms of their thoughts?
No, we did not go to marketing to kind of start that process. We mainly focused on really making sure that the first prototype was usable, it was easy to navigate, and efficiently presented all of the information.
Thanks, guys.
Ken, anything else?
Of course. So as an interesting cross section of WPI student population, when in the process of working this project, did any of you discover something that surprised you? Oh, I didn't know they did this, and I think I might use this. Now, I'm not talking to you, Mac. I think you probably already know about this stuff. I'm guessing. But I mean, what about the other? I mean, okay, all of you. What did you discover? What will you use any of this stuff?
I personally didn't know almost all of these programs, so doing this project really educated me in that area. And there's a lot of them. Like GoTank is actually something I'd be very interested in like doing and being a part of.
I also go ahead, Rihanna.
I honestly don't think I would use any of them, but that's just because that's not really where my interests lie. But I actually had one of my friends who took our student survey then reached out to me afterwards and was like asking me more questions like about like the best way to go about finding programs or whatever. So even though this won't really help me, like it will definitely help other people just knowing that the programs are out there, because he is interested in it and didn't even know about the programs.
Yeah, similar to Ellen, I like knew the names of some of the programs, but I didn't really know about them. I don't think like I'm going into senior year, I wouldn't really use them, especially like given my major, like I'm not creating anything for MQP or stuff like that. But if I was a freshman and I knew about them like this, then I probably would have gotten involved in it.
Okay, thank you.
Great. And Curtis, you're here in the room. I just wanted to say thank you to you and Donna for supporting this project on such short notice. You know, we really appreciate all of the support.